You're listening to Musalog Music Radio, home of indie artists.
Keep it locked.
As we continue to make it a great day, whatever time it is on your end of the planet, I'm Samuel Archer, your host. It's the Anytime, Anyday radio show. That's right. Shout out to the International Village. We're international. Yeah, that's right. People all over the world tuning in. What's up, Anytimers? How are you guys feeling? You guys are doing great. The cyber life junkies and the straight shooters. Hope you guys are doing great. You know, we continue to spread love.
The Brooklyn way.
Although I'm not presently in Brooklyn right now, but we spread love the Brooklyn way. And we talk about the things that I like to talk about. Yes. So we won't be doing any call-ins in a hurry until we exhaust the idea of me talking to you guys. Some people think I'm talking to myself, but I'm talking to you. You guys in the radio land. You guys out there. Although I have a few buddies, you know, they gotta heckle me sometimes. They heckle me and say, hey, I listen to you talk to yourself for 2 hours. Yeah. So, welcome. You know, I thought I'd have gotten a little feedback on the break. I took a little break last couple of days. By the way, I'm rocking some coffee here. And in the last 3 weeks, maybe 2 to 3 weeks, I've been using molasses to sweeten my coffee. I thought I'd try something a little different, you know. So I thought I should just share that. See, if you use sugar, you know, maybe try molasses for 1 week, see what happens. It may be beneficial. Right? You know, work that out. We're still working towards getting 2,000 subscribers. I would say that we're a lot closer. So if you haven't gone to the YouTube page, the link is in the description, because we don't do link in the bios over here. You know, we have our own standard. Link is in the description. So we have 2 YouTube channels, actually. So you have to subscribe twice if you have done so. Because, yeah, we want to make sure that everyone is up to date. We want to make sure that everyone is helping the algorithm, they say. I don't know what that is, but I mean, I know what it is, but I don't know what it is. But yes, my competitors, they keep talking about the algorithm. I don't know if I really care about an algorithm, but, you know, it's something to talk about. Yeah, let me pull up a page here. Because want to talk about this thing here. I want to talk about Musilog Magazine podcasts. We did a couple of recent episodes I want to talk about. We did some really, really good episodes recently. Yeah. I had the pleasure of doing an interview with former member of After Seven. If you have any After Seven fans out here, the brother's name is Keith Mitchell, and his interview was really, really, really good. When I started doing a little reading before, I want to get a little intelligence. I do my best not to go in cold turkey on an interview. But sometimes you can't help it. Sometimes you just, it's an interview, set up the time, and you test your tenacity or you test your experience. Once in a while, it's good to do one of those. Or maybe two. One or two where you didn't prepare and you just went in and winged, the whole wing vibe. But you don't want to do wings all the time, Sometimes you want to go through what it is you're going to talk about and understand who is coming through. One of the things I started doing, which the response on the face of the artist is really cool. And I really do it. So I didn't do it because they were coming on, but it's how I get down with my platform. I like to feel the vibe of the artist that I'm about to interview. So when we set it up a couple of days before the interview, and this doesn't happen like clockwork all the time, but it happens, where I would play their music periodically. It would just be in the background. And, so when I'm interviewing them, I'm not faking the funk like if I listen to the record or if I, and I'm, a lot of times I'm transparent on there. I'll say, I didn't get to tune in too much. And a lot of times when I say that in the interview, it means that I'm winging that interview. I'm busy. I got a lot going on. Hey, who's complaining? It's just part of life. So what happens is when the artist is actually logging on, I may already be in the studio, and this is the digital studio I'm talking about. So it's similar to Zoom, but I use StreamYard. Shout out to the StreamYard people out there. That's really improving the platform. You guys are on fire over there. Definitely shout you guys out. Maybe they may want to be a sponsor. So when they log on, the artists, that is, they may hear their music playing in the background. And not all the times I catch it because I'm either, doing a cup of coffee or I'm a little bit away. So I'm doing what I'm doing, whatever that may be. Use the bathroom or, I don't know, wash my face, something, wash my hands. Maybe I'm washing clothes. But I'm doing something just before the interview, and I'll peek to see, when they come on. There's a way I can be sure that they're in the backstage, I think we call it, or they're in the green room. Those of you that are familiar with the industry. Yeah. But interestingly enough, it's cool to see the facial expression if I'm sitting there waiting and they actually hear that their music is running. You could see that it's a shocker a little bit. It's a little bit of a shocker, and that, I like that. I like the artists to feel at home when they come through, because I'm an artist first. I'm not just here for the content. I'm here because I really like to vibe into what it is they're doing, and this is across all genres. As a creative, I like to see or understand or get a feeling for how they pull their creativity from the universe, what it is they're tapping into, which is why I would ask them, how do you come up with your songs? How do you write? How do you, are you someone that you get the music first, and then are you someone that la first over the music? What's your process like? I like to find those things out because it adds perspective. And even for my listening audience, those of you that are creatives or on your way to establishing yourself as a creative, it's a way to learn how other people create their songs, how they write, things of that nature. So I think why I liked the Keith Mitchell interview too. Now, by the way, I like all my interviews, so I don't want anyone feeling unspecial. Although I don't buy into the "we are all winners" theory. In this case, it's more of an artist that's opening the window or the door for another artist to stop through and talk about what they're about and how they do what they do. So with Keith, you had Kevon and Edmund that primarily did most of the lead singing in After 7. Now, in my experience, don't sleep on the guy in the group that's not necessarily doing lead vocals. The guy or the gal. Some people make what's the word here I'm looking for? They make a judgment call, judging the book by the cover. That person is, they're there to, take up the oxygen. They're just putting a note in. And while listening to his record, I was really amazed. I thought that vocally what he was able to do, or what he's doing on this present gospel record that he has out, I think it would have been cool to hear him feature a little bit more in After 7. But hey, choices are made. It's business. It's the business, and things go the way that they go. And maybe it's a good thing too, because there's that wow effect. There's that shocker. Yeah. I remember seeing Fantasia some time ago. It's Fantasia and Anthony Hamilton. Shout out to them both. What is so interesting is that I saw Anthony and Fantasia might have been 10 years ago. But this was at the Man Theater in Philadelphia. And they tore it up. And it was just interesting to see that they were touring again. Not that I thought it would be the same thing anyway. I didn't even know. I think I wanted to see, might have been Fantasia, like just to go check Fantasia out. She's an artist that I like. I like Fantasia. More so the story. I like to see the journey. You know, there's certain individuals that when I read about their journey, it has a really certain effect on me. I like to read on these people and learn about things, and you know, even some of the songs that they sing. They give you the story behind, you know. It's wow. It's like a wow effect when you hear it. You know, so getting to to do the concert, you know, she was coming in town and I said, hey, why don't I go check out Fantasia? I'll look at her in a minute. And then I find out that Anthony's on the ticket. Oh, wow. I'm like, okay. Second time's a charm. And they did a good job. Let's say they did a good job. You know, it was a beautiful thing. I don't think Anthony would remember me like that. Maybe if we see each other, he'll probably say, hey, I know you. He'll probably say that. But there was a time back in the 90s. Was it the 90s? Yeah, back in the 90s. Between his time at Uptown MCA and Motown, I was working with some then friends of mine, track masters, or should I say some acquaintances. I haven't seen these brothers in years. I hope they're doing good. Shout out to track masters. And they'll be at Chungking, the city. And, you know, we interacted there a couple of years over time. I just saw an interview with Rashad Smith. And I interacted with him a little, not much. And I'd have to go back in my brain and remember what it was that happened. Because at one point, you know, I was in the mix, so to speak. And then I guess the next day I'm somewhere else, you know, doing, you know, pursuing something else. But Rashad Smith did an interview recently, really, really introspective. He worked on some records that I didn't know he worked on. I was like, wow, I was really, really, really impressed. I didn't know he worked on Don't Sweat the Technique by Rakim, me and Rakim. I was like, he did that? Yeah. And he tells the story. This is funny. He tells the story of 2 tracks that he worked on that ended up with LL Cool J. And those songs are doing it well. And is it Launching? They're like two tracks. There's two records that he worked on the that other record. I think it's the Mr. Smith record. And Launching, he produced that, and the Doing It Well record. And come to find out that those two tracks were initially to go to the Notorious B.I.G. And he tells a story about that too, and I'm not going to give it away. You can, pull it up, check that out. I may put the link in the description. We don't do link and bites over here. And so I thought I would just share that sideshow over there. So coming back to the Musilog Magazine podcast, we're still chilling here. You guys didn't hang out with me for a few days, so, you got to hang out now. We're doing that 2-hour stretch. Remember what I told you guys the last time? We don't do a quickie show. However, you can have a quickie during the show. That's right. So the other two interviews that we did, that I thought they were different interviews, but really tasteful, if I should say so myself. I was able to interview a young lady by the name of Dana Madison, and learned about her writing and her journey as an artist. It turns out that she also had some music placed in some TV shows. That is not easy to do, by the way. Getting music placed, it's serious. Anyone that makes that happen, I give them kudos. It's not an easy thing to do. Enough respect. And I also interviewed up-and-coming artist by the name of Obi. And he's a vocalist extraordinaire. And a very interesting man. And I think between Keith and Dana and Obi, the one of the things that we do as creatives is that we bounce off the energy. I would hear Denzel talking about bouncing off the energy, when they're doing a scene in a movie, or I've done a few jam sessions. I'm on keys, someone on drums, someone playing bass, someone playing guitar. And even though we're jamming, we're somewhat bouncing off the energy of each person that's there, that's playing. I had to do that with the interviews. In fact, all the interviews, each person brings a certain vibe to the interview, and I have to feel the vibe as we do the interview. And I would say each person brought a particular power, let's call it a power, to the table. So I say all of that to say, go over to the Musilog Magazine podcast, subscribe if it's on Spotify or YouTube or Apple Podcasts, whatever your platform is. And by the way, there are other platforms online. I think Tuner is one, or is it TuneIn? TuneIn, I think. And there's a few other platforms that the podcast episodes distributed to. It's online. It's free. When you have time, get over there and check out the episodes from Musilog Magazine podcast. The most recent one I did to date that's aired is by Ness Powers. And that interview is somewhat in the same energy with Pete Mitchell from After Seven, where these two interviews, we somewhat spoke of instances in the industry. So for example, Keith spoke on certain things, like being on the Arsenio Hall show and certain records that were put out and certain radio records, where I lived in that time. So I was able to tap into a little bit of the nostalgia. And with Ness, I'm able to do the same thing because she's talking about Redman. She's talking about the Force MDs, formerly the Force MCs. And she talks about her journey, which is so interesting. We chopped it up for about an hour. That interview, I think, is groundbreaking. It's a great interview. So yeah, check out the interviews. Even though, we're talking about the things I like to talk about. One of the things that this show, the purpose is to let you guys also know what's happening in the Musilog platform. And I'm intertwined and connected with that. And, yeah. So if you haven't subscribed as yet, please get over there and subscribe, support. And we also have a radio station, Musilog Music Radio. See, we're keeping the whole Musilog thing going. So, by the way, I'm still looking for that coffee sponsor. Still looking. And we have really good real estate here. And I like, I'm going to talk a little bit more about this later on in this episode. But there's a certain vibe that molasses brings to the coffee. It's kind of a vibe that I like. Taste. When I use sugar does this thing, but it's like a different frequency. It's like, if that makes sense, a certain frequency when you use sugar to sweeten something versus using molasses or honey to sweeten something. So I may talk about that later on. But it's a really cool vibe. And you can't put too much molasses, by the way. Use the molasses sparingly. Use that sparingly and you'd be fine. But back to what we're talking about. Yeah, you guys need to get down with Musilog Music Radio. If you have Alexa, and I pause because I have one of those. So if you have that, what I just mentioned, and I know some of you might get a kick out of it, you can tune into Musilog Music Radio on that platform as well. There's a skill you need to enable in your Amazon account. Now, I don't know if I had put that in the description before, so I'll probably have that in the description now. And once you enable that, all you say is, the platform, we mentioned the name begins with A and ends with A. And then you will just say play MZG radio. M as in mango, Z as in zebra, and G as in good. Yeah. So when you say play MZG radio, it would pull up the station and start playing on that device. So thought you'd want to know that tidbit. So one of the things I want to remind you guys is that on this show, the spirit of pulling the plug, the regular focus that you have going on. There's a lot of noise out there that we have to deal with. So sometimes you got to slow it down and replenish. Sometimes you got to replenish the mind, the body, the soul, to get through the challenges that you're dealing with. Now, I don't know if this would work for you, but sometimes it works for me. I may have a task that I'm really, thinking about it and running all types of different situations, strategies, methods. And sometimes that's how I do music. I think that's probably why I do that sometimes, because I have a lot of music in my head that I'm arranging. While I'm doing my day-to-day, I'm arranging music sometimes. Now, sometimes you got to be careful. You got to be careful sometimes. But while all of that is going on, when I take a break and come back, a lot of times there's part of the answer or the answer I'm looking for when I get back, taking that break. And it could be 10 minutes, it could be 5 minutes. People suggest the same thing if you get upset. You get upset about something. Sometimes they say, find an nearest water fountain or, get a bottle of water and just take a drink of the water. Cool things down. Now that's for those of you who, you go from 0 to 100 in 2 seconds. Yeah. You wanna work on that. But we're not saying to ignore the things that you're dealing with. Sometimes you could tune into the Anytime, Anyday radio show with your host, Samuel Archer, because I have a soothing voice. I keep hearing, use that soothing voice. And, take your mind away a little bit from the groove. So we're going to do a little commercial spotlight. I still have the book out entitled Hybrid Executive. Get out there and get your copy. You can get a digital copy or a physical copy. Now, for the physical copy, you still got to reach out to me for that. I sell those directly. But the digital copy, you don't have to wait on me. You just go to places like Amazon, Barnes & Nobles, and there are other platforms that carry Hybrid Executive. There's also a PDF version out there. So you can also vibe to the PDF version. There are links in the description. Again, not in the bio, but in the description. Okay, remember that. I also have a beginner's piano book. It's called Nimble Fingers Music Workshop. And it's never too late. Well, it could be, but you're alive. You're alive and hearing this, and you wanted to, get a book with a different approach as to playing the piano, you just wanted to know, you want to know the basics, Nimble Fingers Music Workshop book is the book for you. By the way, we still have our business card promotion package. $150 for the year. And basically, when you support, we do a couple of different things. We can have it where one of the episodes are sponsored by you or is provided by you. We would put out newsletters. We put out at least 1 to 3 sometimes, depending on the activity load that month. And every time we put something out, like a newsletter or a blast or an email blast, we will talk about your business. People can learn about you. And we also feature your business on the website. So, support us, and we would appreciate it. Yes. And if you don't want anything specific, but you just want to donate, you can do that too. You just want to donate to the platform. All of that information is in the description. And we have hybrid executive gear. Yeah, I know. You gotta plug everything in. So keep that in mind. Those of you who are interested, reach out. Reach out and touch. I know. You're not singing the whole thing. So, artists who are putting out single, we have a package that can help. We have a single promotion package for $200. Imagine that. And we have a couple of things we do here. So between both platforms, both YouTube channels, we would upload your video, whether it's the still music video or the lyric music video, or if it's an official music video or visualizer, we'll upload it to the channel and put it in our YouTube playlist section so people can check that out. We would feature your single on Musalog Music Radio. Now this, you don't really pay for this, but we throw this in. We do an interview with you, 5 to 10 minute interview, and we do a write-up. We do like a 1-pager. We have a lot of them on, if you go to musalog.com and you go to musalogwoman.com, a lot of the write-ups you see there are, from this package here. So we throw that in. But in terms of the interview, you don't pay for that. Just wanted to be clear on that side of it. And we do the email blast and put the word out. And we also do that for EPs and full albums. All right, so if you have an EP and a full album, we have a package for $500. And it's basically some of the same things in the $200 package, but it's has a little more steroids to it. And if you have any questions on that, guys, you can reach out and do my best to answer you, point you in the right direction. Now, what I want to tell you guys as well, tell the listening audience, is that when you're planning your marketing, there's no rule that you have to work with one specific entity. when I'm putting music out, I'm not working with one entity. I'm working with different situations. So some of it would be they offer a package. Some of it would be networking. Some of it would be interviews. Some of it would be music reviews. The key or the strategy or the trick, however you want to look at it, is to create a marketing mix. And once you put a marketing mix together, you can have all of these activities happen in a particular order based on how you're marketing your record, which in turn would help your record to garner some traction, garner some movement, garner some sales. You want to be in the conversation. If you're not in the conversation, what are you doing? You're actually failing if you're not in the conversation. And what conversation I'm talking about? I'm talking about the conversation online, when you meet people. Think about it. When you, either you're looking on your timeline, you're on of the social media platforms, or maybe when you go to a function during the weekend, what are people talking about? There's a couple of people, there's a couple of names that would come up sometimes. And think about it. Think back. Let's say someone like a Beyonce. How often would her name pop up, whether it's online or at a function somewhere? Maybe you went to the grocery. Maybe her song came on in the music that's being played in the background. Or you happen to eavesdrop and they're talking about Beyonce. Or they may be talking about Kanye West. Or Ye, as he wants to be called Ye now. There's certain names and topics that keep coming up, and it just permeates. And if you're in the conversation, you're doing something correct. Whether it's positive, it's medium, or it's negative. If you're not in the conversation, your brand is not doing the job. And I'm saying all of that for artists. Music artists out there, you putting out your single or your record, mix it up a little. Talk to people like me. You don't have to talk to me personally, but talk to people that's in the game. Consult a little bit. Invest in yourself. What I mean invest, you find a consultant, you find someone that is in the game, and you can even say something like, what would it cost to sit and talk to you for about an hour or two? And pay that person for their time. It could be an account. The person might either say, no, I can come in and, we'll chop it up. What's up? It could be that. Or they may have a fee. And I say, well, I can sit and talk to you for an hour. Give me $50. We'll do that. Or it could be $300. That's the direction you want to start thinking in. And this goes beyond, this is, across the board, not just for musicians and artists, but even for authors, even for people that's in fashion, people that in some sort of a corporate business type of a model. You want to consult. Sometimes you take the person out to lunch. Sometimes you send a fruit basket. Invest in yourself. If you're not doing anything to be in the conversation, you have a lot of work to do. One of the things I tell my students when I'm teaching, one way to test your brand, like how strong is your brand? How strong is your influence in the industry? I say to them, well, go on your social media and say, hey guys, tonight I'm going to be at said restaurant or said bar or said venue. It's going to be open bar for an hour or two. Come through and hang out. Do an impromptu mixer and see how many people come out. If no people come out, then you got work to do. But for some of you might get maybe 5 people to come out. Maybe 10 people might come out. Maybe 20 people. It all depends. But you can use that as a gauge to find out, or something that's measurable, to find out, well, how strong is my brand? How strong is my influence in the conversation? Where people talk about music, they talk about singing, they talk about an author that dropped a book. What names people could remember, off the rip. Is your name in that mix? We see it all the time when people talk about the top 5 rappers or the top 10 rappers. There's certain names that keep coming up in that top 10. They're in the conversation. Is your company or your brand or your product or your service in the conversation? That's something to think about too. One of the reasons why I'm passionate about it is that coming from the melanated experience, there's this notion that we don't pay attention to investing in ourselves. And I don't think it's on purpose. I think we come from a different vibe, our energy is different. We fend for everyone. There's just a certain dynamic. And it's a thing that doesn't really click right away. And some people take it personal. It's not really personal. It's just that, we don't vibrate much in that school of thought. Think about something like the bus boycott. How much pressure you have to put people under that they have to boycott your bus industry because they had to make a point, and then they stuck it out till the bus company had to shut down because black folks was like, hey, we boycott, and shut it all the way down. We don't always need a carrot to do something like that. We can just rock. So yeah, start paying your way. And we're not talking about bribing anyone. It's not an issue of bribe. But if you need someone that has a special, or they have a skill, or they studied, maybe they're a doctor, Maybe they're scientists. Maybe they're a healthcare person that can come and bring tips for the community. Get into the habit of donating to that person or giving them a gift of something. Hey, this is for your time. Get some gas, get some food. We're not saying that everyone is going to be a millionaire, but, if someone has a skill or a specialty, they do have a job, or they may be running a business. If they're going to take the time to come and talk to the youth at your church or your organization or your event, how are they getting there? How are they, do they need something to eat? We got to start thinking in that frequency, thinking in the frequency of making sure that the person that's skilled, that's coming into our community is taken care of. And you look out, and vice versa. That needs to be part of our day-to-day. Investing in yourself. I hope that makes sense, And we talk more about that. However, today, and it's kind of early right now, but I think today, thinking about what I'm going to eat today. I saw this video clip. Sometimes I check out the reels and stuff. And actually, the reels is a way that I notice the shorts. They do pretty good for some strange reason. I'm not sure what's going on with that, but they look pretty good in terms of the numbers. And the shorts even do better than the actual episodes. So I'm paying attention to it. But anyway, there are other shorts that I see while I'm doing my thing, whatever that thing is. And there was something that stuck with me. I saw this lady take a cabbage, right, a head of cabbage, take off some of the leaves on the outside, take out the stem in the middle. Obviously, you want to wash your vegetable. Okay, don't just throw it in like some people do. Make sure you do the wash by. And you dry it. And she had the olive oil. And, I would say she made love to the cabbage, rubbing the olive oil all over. So now she didn't have sex with the cabbage. Now don't get me wrong, but just a hand action to make sure that the olive oil was well distributed. Okay, let me keep it moving. Yeah, and after applying the olive oil, she seasoned the heavens out of the cabbage. I think she pulled everything out. And there was actually one point she was sneezing. They say, it ain't seasoned if you're not sneezing, right? So she did sneeze a few times. So that's to tell you how strong that seasoning was. And it makes sense. A cabbage is a very layered, leafy vegetable type thing. So, you want to make sure that you have enough seasoning to permeate through the cabbage, right? And in the same area where the stem was dug out, she stabbed it a few times in there. I hope it didn't hurt the poor cabbage. But the stabbing in around the sides was to help ensure that the seasoning goes into different areas of the cabbage. And she wrapped it up in aluminum foil and baked for 2 hours. Jesus. I think I want to try it. And if you try it, let me know how it works. Now, it looked really good. So I'm thinking I want to vibe with some of that today. And the last time I spoke about, I was feeling for lentils. And I thought I had lentils, but I didn't have any lentils. But guess what? I have lentils today. Jesus. So we're going to get some lentils going. Lentil. And I think we're going to fry some fish. Hallelujah. Now, when I do lentils, I do lentil, I somewhat work with a little bit of white rice, some white. Now, there's certain things you want to just rock with white rice, or brown rice, depending on your vibe. But, it's not really going to be like a rice and peas or a cook-up rice with lentil. I guess with lentil, it goes really well with white rice. But of late, I don't do much rice. I learned about what happens with rice when it's overnight. So I've started to shorten the length of time I keep rice in the fridge. When you learn about these bacterias and things like that, sometimes it's a scary thing to learn about. But it is advised, that when you cook rice, you want to, knock it out that same day. Maybe day 2. But after that, you don't want to keep that rice too long. And I was guilty of that. I would cook a full pot of rice and, eat that like a good week. And then you learn about the way how the bacteria works with it. And I'm not going to spoil your day, guys. If you're interested in it, you can go online, pull up some information on that. And it's like that. So when I cook rice, I cook just enough. Now I don't go overboard with rice. Just enough. And do my best to tear up that rice in the same day. Right? Well, it wouldn't hurt to have some fried fish on the side. Hallelujah. I think the fish was the holy, but Jesus helped the disciples with their fishing, right? Is that how the story goes? They were fishing all night, and then they saw Jesus on the bank, and then he said, cast your nets over there. And then they cast the nets, and there's a lot of fish coming in. So I think, fish and chicken, they're two things that church folks, they go in on that stuff. They really go in. So I think I'm going to work on that today. Now, one thing I want to do is give my eldest daughter a major shout out. She's been doing, crochet fashion for a few years. And, as a parent, I like that she's doing something. Now I have 2 girls and everybody's busy. So I don't want to say that one is more important than the other, but one is older and one is younger. But this particular situation, I want to shout out the older one. She started a mass camp and it's called Kaiso Tribe. So it's Kaiso Tribe Mass Camp. And for those of you who don't know, a mass camp is, it's connected to carnival, Caribbean style carnival. Some of you might know it as regalia, costumes. The music that's played is soca, calypso. Now Kaiso, it could be considered. Actually, Kaiso is just another way to say calypso. I think it's. I'm going to get in trouble for this. And that's why I'm laughing, because there's so many layers to the word kaiso. Now, kaiso is a real word, by the way. And it is related to the storytelling in calypso music. And I think it's even traced back to Nigeria. Now, look, if you got to fact check me, it's fine. By all means, jump in the comments and let me have it. At least there'll be some kind of activity, right? And but if you grew up in an environment where you're doing broken, you speak broken English, which is the English speaking islands. A lot of times our English is broken, we don't really speak the Queen's English, but, we were colonized. We come from that colonized experience. So obviously English would be part of how we communicate. And instead of pronouncing words fully, calypso, we may just get a little lazy and break it up and say kaiso. So that's the other dynamic of the word. But anyway, my daughter, she decided within the last year or so, it was recent too, because I went to hang out with her at a conference. It was a carnival conference in Fort Lauderdale some months ago. So I took some time to hang out with her that day. And we went to this conference, and it was really a really good conference. There were people that came out, and shout out to Killa, shout out to my big brother, Dr. Henry, and Karen. Actually, had Dr. Henry and Karen are my co-hosts from Caribbean Feedback. So those of you who are familiar with the Caribbean Feedback podcast that we did, we actually did over 100 episodes, by the way. And all of those episodes are still on YouTube. So if you put in Caribbean Feedback on YouTube, you'll see all those episodes. So I was able to hang out with Big Bro and Big Sis that day. And we hung out, So she actually saw it all the way through. And I just wanted to give her that props today on this show. And not only that, she saw it all the way through. Her mass camp was in the small band category. So you had 3 categories. You had the big band, middle band, and small band. So I went up to Delaware and experienced the Delaware Carnival for 2025. It was a good experience, I must say. I did get some good sunshine in my assessments. Yeah, that was some serious sun. I mean, that sun was so serious. My head, those of you who know me, I have a bald head vibe going. Head is still peeling. So when I shower, if I don't put a little put a little cream on top of my head, you'll see those little, sunburn flakes coming out. And I smile at it. It's funny. It's like, oh, look at that. I was all in the sun, and the sun gave me a good, got some vitamin D that day. Shout out to the ex-wife and family as well. They were there. We all supported the big girl, and it was good. It was good. Even the masqueraders, and that's where you get mass from, the word mass, masqueraders, if you're not familiar with it. And we have some video and so on. So if you search whatever your whatever ISP you're using, whether it's Google or Chrome or whatever, Safari, Firefox, put in Kaiso Tribe, Kaiso Tribe Mass, and there's a website too. IG page. I think they may have a TikTok page, but you can see some of the footage online from the carnival. And I just wanted to take a moment and shout out my big girl. Also, my youngest daughter played mass as well, Alexa. So yeah, shout out to her. We all got a good sunbathing. And their uncle was the DJ on the truck. We had a trailer vibe going. This is good, really, really good. So those of you who are interested, just jump online and check it out. Thinking about it, it's on both YouTube channels that I'm developing presently. So if you go to the Musilog Music YouTube channel, and you go to the other channel, and the links are in the description, you should be able to see the videos. I forgot about that. Yes, we did do a broadcast of that, so yes. Now, one of the things I've been doing with each episode is talk about investment. I think investing in ourselves and understanding the importance of being interested in investing in ourselves is a thing that's lacking. And I think that's why it's a great conversation piece for many of us. I do get conversations from the radio show with folks who may have tuned in that know me. Okay, so I could imagine the people that I don't know personally, they probably have these conversations as well, or they probably did. You think about it. At least you're in thought. Everyone is dealing with something somewhere, and they're climbing, finding their purpose in life, or improving what it is they're doing. They're building, growing. And one of the things we need more of is being able to leave something for the next generation. We have to get into the habit of planting seeds of trees that we may not even get to taste the fruit of that. But you plant that tree anyway. Plant that tree for your generations. Whatever that might be. Whether you're a fashion designer, you're an author, you write novels, you're a musician, you put out music. Maybe you're in hospitality management field. Maybe you're in the medical field. What can you do that will bring fruit to your generations? And we're even talking about the ones that are not even born yet. and you plant something that they will get to benefit from in the future. So we have to break the cycle from leaving nothing, where everyone has to start from scratch, to leaving something. Oh, also there's life insurance. And by the way, I do have a link that I've been putting in the description to those of you who might want to explore life insurance possibilities. So that's also something that you can look into, investing in yourself, putting something aside. I was having a convo with my big girl, and we were talking about, we have these money conversations sometimes, understanding how money works. And I was explaining to her that the action of paying something at the counter, let's say you get to the grocery and you pay, or you go to the gas station and you pay, maybe you went to the restaurant, or you went to an amusement park, or you went to a concert, or you went on a trip. And the action of paying, I use the example of a spark. And those of you who've seen a spark, it's a short thing that you see, but a lot went into the buildup of the spark. And I use that example so she can see that the action of that spark that you see, or the action of you paying, you actually taking money out from your pocket to pay for that specific thing, is similar to a spark. But it took you a while to even have that spark happen. That is how money works. And if you can adjust the mind to see why people put money aside, to see why people save, to see why people learn about different funds and things of that nature, opposed to thinking, well, let's go rob a bank and get $1 million, or let's go rob a bank and do this, or you notice the people that rob, they use all that money up like really quickly, or they won the lotto, and it's like in a short space of time. Even sometimes the athletes, you would hear that or read how much money went through their hands, and you wonder what happened. Well, it comes down to not understanding how money works. But if you think of the spark dynamic I talk about, imagine you have a box of matches and it's sitting there. It's what you call potential energy, right? It's not energy in motion yet. It's just there as a potential. Those of you who did physics. When you light that match, now it's energy in motion. That's how money works. And money is what we decide it is. Money is not the paper that you see, you pull out 20 or 50. Again, that's the spark of it. That's the end game. But there's a lot that goes into that. You're talking maybe years. That money you spent in that moment might have been building up for 10 years or maybe 15 years. And you're now spending it. That's what I'm talking about. We have to start looking at investment a different way. It's not robbing a bank and getting $1 million or $20 million and you did this heist and you think you're going to be good. If you never understood how it works, guess what? You do that big heist, and then when it's finished, you got to go do that other big heist. And there's a boxer that I like, one of my favorite boxers. And the kind of money that this boxer accumulated over time, he's still broke today, literally. Again, it comes down to understanding how it works. But I learned something about AI, who is still one of my favorite basketball players. He's out of the league now, he retired. But I don't think I've ever seen anybody like that. I read something about the person that put his money matters together, and you guys should pull that up and learn about it and read on it. But what that person did was set his finances up in such a way that he wouldn't spend it all in one go around. I think when he gets to a certain age, then those funds would be released. So it's either it's released by now, or in a few months or a few years, that those funds would be released. And that is a really good situation, to have someone who can look at your present situation and put you on a path that you learn over time, understand how the money works, and not just be drawn to the spark play or the lights or the flashing lights or the dynamics, which is what we love to see. We love to see that part. But, think about going to a fireworks show. It's the same thing. The planning to put a fireworks show together is crazy, but it's the same dynamic, because you have to lay everything down. That's what the spark looks like. So, I remember one episode we spoke about, what you're making, paying yourself first by putting aside 10% of that. Those of you who can afford 20%, so you get the paycheck and you put that aside. And over time, you let it grow. And letting it grow means it could be something that's physical, whatever the currency medium is in that moment, whatever that might be, if it's cash, or maybe you open a different account that's separate, where you can actually save your funds there. And obviously you don't want to be touching those funds like that. You want to just put it aside. Every time you get paid, you put that little bit aside. And maybe you should do 3 things. What I was suggesting to my daughter was, okay, you do 10% for yourself, and 2 other things that you want to save for, you do those at 5% a piece. So let's, if you imagine 3 envelopes, you have one that you pay yourself, and then you have 2 other envelopes where you put 5% a pop for those 2 other things. One could be a vacation, one can be for emergency repairs or something like that. So this is not money that you're touching or mixing in your regular day-to-day. You put that aside and save and be disciplined and dedicated to it. In fact, when I did consulting for a few artists, and it's easier to say to people than if you're doing it for yourself. But at least I knew, and I always said to them, if you want to see your money in terms of your CD sales, I was buying CDs now, but CDs are coming back. But in terms of your sales or your physical sales, create a separate account. And as you sell CDs, or you sell your records, or you sell your merch, put that money in that account. Don't mix it in your regular day-to-day money. And those are the building blocks of how money works. So understanding that if you compare it to a fireworks show, the time that you go in putting the whole thing together, that's the money growing. Then everyone comes July 4th, in the evening time when the sun is setting, and then, they start the fireworks show when you're seeing all these things. And the show would probably last for about maybe half an hour to 40 minutes. Just imagine the kind of time those people put into putting that show together. It's the same thing. If we can think of money in that same dynamic, just to break the ice a little bit. Now, is there more to understand? Obviously, yes. We're not going to do a whole crash course. And plus, I'm going to put a disclaimer out there. I'm not a financial accountant or someone that can, give you that advice. So I'm not giving that advice. Those are things you can do your research on and speak to the people that deal with that. But what I'm talking about are things to self-improve, things to help start shaping the mind in a direction that we have to start thinking in if we are going to survive. And we have some people presently getting upset when the truth is being told, apparently. And they want to go mess with their artifacts in the African American Museum here in the States. Now, mind you, I remember when the African Museum in DC was a conversation, and I donated to it. I did. I was on the email list. And funny enough, it has been opened since umpteen years later, and I haven't gone to see the museum yet. That's an example of planting a seed that you haven't benefited with. But guess what? My daughters went to the African American Museum in DC. Isn't that interesting? So they benefited from something that I planted a seed. It might have been maybe 15 or 20 years before. Well, when did emails come out? Emails came out in 89, 90? Yeah. Think about it. 89, 90, we started getting into the whole online thing. So by the time I was on that email list, this time being on the email list was what led to where our social media is today. But there was a time when our emails was the social media. We have all these chain emails going. So that's how I got into that. So we're talking, I'll say maybe the early 2000s. I'll have to fact check that though. But the Smithsonian, especially the African American Museum aspect, but I think the Smithsonian is different. They're different museums, if I'm not mistaken. Fact check me on that too. I welcome all the fact checking. Yes, it got built, and then it opened. I remember hearing when it opened, and I was supposed to make a journey to check it out. But my point is, who gives other people the right to go to a museum and argue about the artifacts in the museum. Like, what do you know, especially a black museum. People just love to be in our business for some strange reason. So we gotta, they didn't put any money into it, but you have the right to come and talk about it and want to make changes. I would say to the administration there to just tell the federal government, keep your money, and we'll continue supporting it as a people. I mean, we just shut down Target in a big way. We could definitely support the Smithsonian by ourselves. So I'm just going to throw that out there. So one of the things I spoke on was growth. That was in the last episode. I spoke about growth. What was your ceiling? It became your floor. Your clothing, you grow that out. And as a metaphor, by the way, we're not trying to say anybody's fat out here. Woo. Even friends, friends might become acquaintances. I tell you guys about my experience with people in music back in the 90s. I'm not in touch with those people anymore. Some of them have gone on to do great things. Things change. It changed for them, and it changed for me. And then you have diet changes. Change of diet. Instead of it being entertainment all the time, now you want to read more. You listen to podcasts like this, get more information, maturity. That's the other thing that comes into play. And I remember my dad at one time, he was, I think, in his 70s. And there were certain things that he said, if I knew about this sooner, I would invest that. So those of you with time on your side, you're before 50, you're in your 50s, there's a few things to put in place before you hit 60. And if you're 60, you still have time to do something, plant a seed, and things of that nature. So I'm going to read the Growth Manifesto again, just to bring our minds into the vibe. So it says, growth hurts, but it's the ache of becoming. And by the way, I did this with ChatGPT, where I gave it my pointers and then it expounded, really expounded the points. I did do some tweaking to it, but overall, it's in the same context. And those of you who want a copy of this manifesto, by all means, reach out and I will shoot it out to you. It's like a JPEG or something, and you can put it up on your wall if needs be. Some people, they need to see their goals daily. If you're one of those people and you need to just have those positive readings around you, by all means, make it happen. So the first one, it says here, your ceiling becomes your floor. What once felt impossible is now your warm-up. You've risen so high that yesterday's limits can't contain you. Can you imagine that? Yeah, this is deep. The other one is, You outgrow your old clothing. And it says here, beliefs, habits, comfort zones that once fit you now pinch and restrict. You were never meant to stay stitched into. Look at that. You were never meant to stay stitched into the clothing. And again, that's a metaphor. Right? So that's a sign of growth. Your diet, your diet is different, right? And if the diet is different, then things are changing. Things are different. It says here, some friends fade into acquaintances. Not everyone is meant to walk every mile with you. Bless their chapter in your story, then turn the page. Now that's kind of cold a little bit if you think. It's kind of cold. But, this brings my mind to, let's say you were building something with someone. You're building a business, or you're building a career, something, whatever it is that might be. And let's say the relationship changes. Some people can't bless what it was, keep it moving. Some people believe that you need to destroy this thing, whatever this, you spent time into this, and you need to destroy. Get rid of it. And what it's saying here, bless that chapter. You're not in the, you're not forsaking. It's not that you want to forsake anyone. Or why be in the spirit of forsaking anyone? Bless that chapter and turn the page. Some people are with you for a season. Some will be with you for a lifetime. How would you know? How would you know? So the other one says, true friends grow with you. I like that. They rise when you rise, rooting for your evolution, not resenting it. They see the future version of you and love you there too. Yes. Some people you might have to love them from afar. Just say, you know what? That's my dude doing his thing over there. That's my girl doing her thing over there. Maybe the relationship is different. Maybe it's, what have you. But spirit, you still support their every move. Or the relationship might be one where you see them every couple of days. You talk to each other every couple of days. It all depends. And this one says your diet changes. You begin to move with patience, clarity, and quiet strength. You no longer chase validation. You carry it. Whew. It's a bar. That's a bar right there. That's crazy. And it ends with, growth is never comfortable, but comfort never made you grow. Those of you who want a copy of this, shoot me an email or just, get it on to me and I'll shoot you this. It's a JPEG, by the way. So if you want to make a big poster out of it, put it on the wall and use it as seed, as daily seed to improve yourself by all means. So on the subject of money, we're going to talk about money a lot on this Anytime, Anyday radio show. Our self-improvement or growth is where I'm coming from. And we want to look at, and this is an overview. So 3 basic activities individuals can do to start saving money. And this is just a starting point. This is not, it's not the gospel. Got to put my disclaimer out there. But this is just to help you with self-evaluation. Okay, so the 3 things suggested here is creating a budget. The second thing suggested is reducing expenses. And the third thing suggested is automatic savings, or automating your savings. And it says here, taking these steps help to create a clear plan, build a momentum, and ensure consistency in your savings. Now, how many of you actually create a budget? Sometimes I'm forced to do one, but it's not in my DNA to just sit and say, let me do a budget. So I have some learning there to do, putting a budget together. Now, I guess in my brain, right? And I'm just going to be, what's the word here? Transparent. The way how the month goes, there might be 3 or 4 things that you have to pay. The rent or your mortgage, utility bills, those of you with a car payment, so you got to pay the car payment. And if you have a car, you have insurance, you got to pay that too. There's groceries. There's a guy that's in office right now. He thought that it was funny to say the word groceries. He didn't know how important groceries are to other people. But anyway, we'd leave that over there. And your phone. How many things is that? That's 5 or 6 things I spoke about that you make sure you pay every month like clockwork, because it's important. And your car, you gotta get gas, you got to do tune-ups, right? You do a tune-up. And once in a while, you may have to take it to the shop, something. And these things happen like out of the blue. So you got to be prepared for that if that happens, right? Now, saying that you're going to create a budget, I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but maybe something that we all can try together. I'm going to actually sit down and say, all right, well, based on these things I got to pay every month, let me put a budget in place for that, which would lead into the second suggestion. It says reducing expenses. Got to reduce your expenses. It's a beautiful thing. So which means that you're not going to spend frivolously. Not because you have it, you need to spend it. Save for rainy day. All right? And which would lead into the third thing. So as I spoke about the car that may have some mechanical thing to be fixed, whatever it might be. Maybe you got to change the alternator. Maybe you got to change the tires. Maybe you need a new battery. Maybe it's a tune-up. You got to go to Jiffy Lube or one of those guys, or your mechanic, get that fixed. Or maybe the what do you call it? The plugs and the I'm trying to remember the name of the rubber things. Sometimes they wear off. Maybe your timing belt, it goes bad, and you gotta replace that. There's a lot of little things you gotta fix sometimes. Where is that money coming from if something happens? So, one of those envelopes that I spoke about previously, maybe a few minutes ago, one of those envelopes where you pay yourself 10% and then you do 5%. One of those envelopes, the 5% envelope, could be for the car. Maybe something happens with the car, and that is a fund you put aside to deal with that. But what I may suggest, is putting a start off thing in there. You might probably want to put $500 in there first, and then do the 5% out. You got to start it off with something, just in case something pops off. And I say that because, thinking on my experience, the average cost when something goes wrong, whether it's the engine, whether it's your shocks or tires, or maybe you need a new bearing hub, maybe you need whatever that might be. That thing, it actually stops the car. You got to stop the car and get this thing fixed, whatever that might be. It averages between maybe $500-$600 to close to $2,000 in one sitting. Like, that's what you're going to spend in that one sitting. So, you might want to start that off with some money. Put something in there, and maybe even have what you call a secured credit card. Maybe you can get that too, and just throw that in there as a backup, just in case something pops off. You can just say, I got X amount of dollars here. I can use that, and I'm back. I'm on the road again. Yeah, folks, that's life. That's real life stuff here. So let's jump into these three things. Creating a budget. It says here, budget is a roadmap for your money that helps you understand your income and where your money goes every month. So yeah, I'm going to have to work on that. By tracking your spending, you can identify how much you can realistically set aside for savings, right? Okay. So I like where the angle of there, because when I spoke about paying yourself first, I was just saying paying yourself first. I didn't consider putting a budget to really realistically set something aside. So maybe there's more that can be set aside. So instead of it being 10%, maybe I could do 20% every time I get paid, right? I'm thinking that's probably what the idea is. Under the creative budget, it says track your expenses. And it gives you a suggestion. It says, for at least 1 month, write down every cent you spend. Okay. Let me continue reading. Many banks and budgeting apps can automate this for you. categorize your spending into needs and wants, such as rent, groceries, transportation, dining out, and entertainment. Look at that. We're on the same stream here. Now, I think the way if I'm going to track my expenses, the way I would do that is probably look at my bank statement, and then go through the different itemized spending there. So yes, or maybe you can get one of those apps. Now, I do not have anything suggested here, so this is something that you would have to research for yourself. So, yeah. The other point it says here, compare income to expenses. I don't even do this. I'm just living. So it says here, add up your total expenses and subtract them from your monthly income. If your expenses exceed your income, you are spending more than you earn and will need to make changes to your spending habits. And that is very true, especially those of us living paycheck to paycheck, right? So a little bit of growth would be needed here to help us as we grow out of these bad habits of just living and spending nonchalantly, right? So it says here, it's giving us a system. It says use the 50, 30, and 20 rule. It says it's a popular budgeting method to allocate your after-tax income. So it says here 50% for needs, essentials like housing, groceries, utilities, and transportation. 30% for wants, right? So 50% for your needs, 30% for your wants. It says here discretionary spending like dining out, hobbies, and streaming services. I forgot about that. Those of us with Netflix and Hulu and all of that, and you got to pay for Wi-Fi. Imagine that. I didn't even put that in the budget there, but that shows up here. Oh, by the way, you guys can check and see. If you're with T-Mobile, they had a thing where they would cover your Netflix bill. So if that situation is still available, if that is still available, means. And it says here 20% for savings and debt. What you set aside for an emergency fund, retirement, and paying down debt is that 20%. Okay, so if you guys want to try that out, and we can try it together too, I'm not a saint on this. We're all under the banner of the rat race out here. Right? So yeah, get it all together, guys. Get it together as we proceed to give you what you need, spreading love.
The Brooklyn way.
Yeah. Let's see what the other thing says here as we close into our 2-hour mark of the show. It says here, reduce expenses. So first we looked at the whole budget idea, and now we're reducing expenses. It says here, cutting back on unnecessary spending is one of the most direct ways to increase your savings. focus on small, manageable changes in different areas of your budget. Yes. This is deep because I'm literally in that mode right now. I did cut off a few things the last few days, and there's more to cut off. Yes, cutting back on unnecessary spending. There's some online services that I subscribe to. Some of those have been cut because it was a $10 there and a $5 there and a $15 there and a $9.99. There's all these little things. Get those taken care of. It says here, cancel subscriptions. Review your bank and credit card statements for recurring subscriptions or memberships that you no longer use, such as streaming services, magazines, or gym memberships. Okay, so again, you're doing your self-evaluation on things that you don't need to continue paying for. It says here, reduce food costs. Instead of eating out or buying coffee every day, pack your lunch and brew coffee at home. Now, hopefully you can make coffee at home or some tea. There's some people that's really, they're all fingers. And no joints, just fingers, right? Meal planning before grocery shopping can also help reduce impulse buys and food waste. So ladies, don't get mad at me, ladies. I see you all the time. I need to explore that topic of ladies going to shop. It's an interesting dynamic. You have the male gender where the male uses reason, or should I say reason dominates the masculine gender, and emotions dominate the female gender, right? Let's say it like that, because we all have reason and we're also emotional, but in different levels. And I remember just giving my ex-wife where she had her cards. And I remember when we moved to Delaware, at one point I'm driving. Oh, I want to go here, or I need to go there, and I'm the chauffeur. And I'm like, you know what, you're going to learn how to drive really quickly. And she got her license. Hallelujah. And I said, all right, okay, take the car. You drive where you got to go. One of the things I hate as a guy, and, it's not that I hate it to the point that I can't, adjust. But sometimes you have to adjust. Sometimes there's no getting on. But the grocery shopping and, guys, we're predators, we focus. Cornmeal, sugar, this, that, the other, boom. And we're in and we're out of there. Not the ladies, by the way. The ladies have to feel the vibe. They're all in the vibe. They're in the emotion vibe. And it's okay, ladies. I'm not saying it in a bad way. I'm just showing the differences between the sexes here. The ladies have to feel the vibe. I mean, they even feel the vibe if the person that attended to them had a snotty attitude. And you're like, what? Who? Yeah, I was getting the cheese and they were cutting the cheese for me. And like they were having a bad day. And I'm like, the person cutting the cheese, because they bought cheese or they bought lunch meat or you go to the deli section of the grocery. And when they go to the mall, guys, forget it. Oh my God. You go to the mall, I'm like, look, I will see you in 2 hours. Yeah. Anyway, it's just a beautiful thing to discuss the differences between the genders there sometimes. So we're on reducing expenses here, and it says here lower utility and insurance costs. Small things like unplugging electronics, switching to LED light bulbs, and adjusting your thermostat can reduce energy consumption. Compare insurance rates every few years, as you may find a better deal by switching providers or bundling your policies. Now, I'm not a fan of bundling too much because if something happens, it can get hairy. So yeah, you wanna be careful of that. And the last one is automate your savings. So it says here, a pay yourself first approach is one of the most effective ways to save consistently. This removes the temptation to spend your savings by transferring the money before you can access it. Set up automatic transfers. Use your bank's mobile app or website to schedule automatic transfers from your checking account to a savings account every payday. Okay, so you can set it up like that. Create separate savings accounts. Open separate accounts for specific goals, like an emergency fund, a new car, or a vacation. And actually, this is what we spoke about earlier with having the different envelopes. So you have one where that envelope is you pay yourself. And then you have those 2 other envelopes for specific things. One could be for the car, maybe it's an emergency fund, and the other one could be for the vacation. So you have that going on. And it says here, this makes it easier to track progress and keeps you from borrowing money from one goal to cover another. So yeah, that's the other thing. You don't want to be mixing up all of that. And it says here, enroll in employer-sponsored plans. So if your employer offers a 401k plan, enroll in it, especially if they provide a matching contribution. This is essential free money for your retirement. I don't know if that money is free. It's nothing free under the sun. But this is some good pointers, guys. This is some good points. As the world turns and the storms of life are raging and things are getting crazier and crazier and all of that good stuff, we have to focus on what it is we have to do. That's what we got to do, and that's what this show is all about, the Anytime, Anyday radio show. I'm your host, Samuel Archer. And let's venture back into our commercial. I am the author of the book Hybrid Executive. It's geared to the music business, but on a general level, it's a self-help book. I've had people from different industries read the book, and they were able to use information from the book or their path or their field or their career. So yes, you want to check that out if you haven't. And if you've gotten a copy for yourself, if you got a copy for yourself and you like what the book had in store, feel free to, share the information about that. Tell someone else, hey, I read this book. I think it's a good look. And those of you who want to do piano lessons again, you missed the boat and you want to get back at it. Music is a fun thing, and it could be therapeutic too. It could be a situation where it's that thing you do for you. You know, get that book out and the keyboard and just play. You know, touch the notes. Run your hands on the keys. Get the feeling. Remember, we still have that business card promotion package going. So yeah, promote your business with us. Grow with us. We want to rock with you. We appreciate the support. So you hung out with me for 2 hours. I hope it was inspiring. I hope it was entertaining. I hope it was a form of edutainment. Thanks KRS-One for inventing that word. That we can use it today in ways that nature didn't intend. Right? Where did I get that from? Anyway, it's the Anytime, Anyday radio show. I'm Samuel Archer, your host. Shout out to the Anytimers. Shout out to the International Village. Make it a great day and continue spreading love. The Brooklyn way. Peace.
You're listening to Music Radio, home of indie artists.
Keep it locked.